All right. Hi everyone, I'm SERGEJ KOTLIAR from Bitrefill, and you've seen the slides. I'm going to do some real talk, but first I just want to say I'm just so incredibly fucking happy to be here and finally made it to Paralelní Polis and to celebrate Pizza Day with all of you guys. And celebrating is a key word here. It's important, and I think it's an important aspect of our community that we celebrate it, right? Even though one can make a very, very decent argument that as a financial investment by paying 10,000 BTC for 2 pizzas, maybe not the smartest, but I think that everybody here, I hope, knows and feels that Laszlo is okay. We don't need to run a GoFundMe for him, you know, it wasn't his last Bitcoins. But also because Pizza Day and that event in history, you know, it embodies the sort of the unity, the yin and yang of it all, you know, that he did use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which was part of establishing Bitcoin as a storeholder value, right? Which in turn makes it useful as a medium of exchange. And these things go together. You can't have one without the other. It's completely unthinkable. And discussing it doesn't make sense. Because you need both, you know? And a lot of this stuff, everything that we discuss still in the community, all of that was already discussed, you know, in Satoshi's email announcement post or in the early Bitcoin talk post and so on. There's not that much new under the sun. And by the way, if you've read books about Bitcoin, but you haven't read all of the writings from Satoshi, then you have homework to do. I'm just saying. But you know, this classic quote of like, imagine a base metal that is as scarce as gold, but kind of useless for everything else, but has this one magical property that it can be transported over a communications channel, right? That part is very important. Other than that, it's just useless. And if it somehow acquired any value at all, then it would be useful, because you could buy it here and sell it there, and you could send it over the internet, and it would be a great thing. And maybe it could acquire its first value circularly, right? So this is like 2010, he sets up speculation, you know? Maybe it might just make sense to get some in case it catches on, right? And so everything that we say today, we saw already then, in all of these things. But I think that this duality is important, right? Because at the end of the day, whatever vision that you have for Bitcoin or for crypto or whatever, you know, there's a lot of different views, but none of it works unless Bitcoins are freedom money. And for Bitcoin to be freedom money, it needs to circulate freely, right? And this is why I do what I do. I think it's important, this aspect to highlight. So, in this talk, I'm going to, you know, open our metaphorical kimono quite a bit. I'm going to share some stats, some that we haven't shared before. And I'm going to share some learnings that we've had over 7 years of building Bitrefill. And the purpose of this, I think, primarily talking to the people in the space that are building things. Because I think it's important to, you know, if you can learn these things faster than we did, and to understand these things, it'll be better. And it's always, no matter what the truth is, it's always better to know the reality than to not know. And so my commitment to this talk is lots of transparency, openness, also to not be misleading with stats, which is easy to do. I promise not to do that. My ask from the audience is that you listen to me as a friend who is talking, and that you listen to the main messages. I'm sure there's going to be a word or two that you can cut out of context and flame me on Twitter, but let's discuss the main messages, because I think this is important. Okay? Silence is acceptance, right? All right. So who the hell am I? I run, Mario already introduced, I run Bitrefill. Maybe quick raise of hands. How many people here know what Bitrefill is? Just, all right, most. And how many have bought something on Bitrefill? All right, there we go. No, but it's pretty good. So yeah, Bitrefill is on a quest to make Bitcoin freedom money, to build a circular economy. And for that, you need to be able to buy stuff, because honest to God, like, what kind of shit internet money is it we're building here if you can't buy shit with it? I think. And so Bitrefill lets you, pay your bills, refill your prepaid phones. But the bread and butter of it is that we sell gift cards for e-commerce and for actual commerce. We do this all over the world. Now we have a couple of products in the Czech Republic. We have mal.cz and Alza.cz and some stuff like that. Anyways, and so, yes, we've been doing this for 7 years. I think, to my knowledge, we are the #1 largest service that people use to buy things in the real world with crypto. I don't know, maybe someone will call me out on this, but I actually think it's the case. So, first stat is that in the last month, Bitrefill processed 186,000 cryptocurrency purchases on our website. Now, and this is a typical month. It's not misleading somehow or whatever, right? And I mean, it's it's kind of a high number. It's not the highest, but like, to give you a reference, I think BitPay has a network of 200,000 merchants. They have Twitch and Microsoft and Shopify, and that entire network does 70,000 transactions per month. So it's something, at least. This is sort of why you should listen to me. We're ahead of some, let's say. Anyway, let's time to talk about some real stats, because I think that's where interesting things will happen. The first stat is like, do people pay with Bitcoin or with other cryptos or whatever? So here's the breakdown by payment methods on Bitrefill. So you see that on-chain Bitcoin is still going strong at #1, but now down at 31%, right? Followed by Ethereum at 23%, and then you have Tether and Tron, Binance Pay, Tether and Ethereum, Litecoin, and then we have Lightning, just behind Litecoin, but at around 5%. And so some people sometimes say, like, you should count by transactions, because, yeah, we can do that, but that would also be misleading, because, one user can go in with Lightning and make, a $1 purchase for a Free Fire game, and then another, and then another, and then another, whereas another guy will go in and make one purchase for 20 Free Fire tokens. And is that really, is the former really worth 20 times more? I don't know. I think it's misleading. But we can also count by unique users. Maybe that's a more, if you want to count heads and not euros, we can count heads, and then it looks like this. Then on-chain Bitcoin is now up at 40%. Ethereum's down at 15%. So understanding is that Ethereum users, well, if you're paying 20, 50, whatever bucks for a transaction, you're going to make bigger transactions, right? And you see that Tether on Ethereum goes all the way down, and Lightning goes up a little bit and actually passes Litecoin in this model. But so the question here is, why not more Lightning? Right? I mean, from my standpoint, I've been a big believer, and Bitrefill has been a big believer in Lightning from the start. We were, the first to roll out mainnet support for paying with Lightning. We had the first real-world purchase with Lightning. We've always tried to do all of the latest stuff, bet unreasonably big on Lightning. And I mean, if you'd asked me 4 years ago where we'll be with Lightning in 4 years, I would have said, well, in 4 years, it's going to be 90% Lightning, right? That would have been if you asked past SERGEJ. But we don't observe this. right? And so if the observations of the world don't match your internal expectations, then you kind of have to evaluate and assess to see what's what here. And there's been a lot of thinking about this stuff and a lot of digging, and I'm going to walk you through this stuff. Because I think that Lightning has a marketing problem. And in fact, it's not Lightning specific. It's transactional Bitcoin as a whole, right? I mean, Lightning has a problem. Liquid has it even worse. There's a lot of these things in the transactional Bitcoin space that are, not taking off as big as I think they deserve to. And the key word here is marketing problem, right? So a lot of us here are techies and nerds, and we see things from that perspective, and we always expect there to be a technical problem that we can solve by building with code. And those of us who were around in 2017 with all of the block size wars and discussions, you know how Lightning came to be from that political environment and all of that. And so at that time, there was a scaling problem, it was a technical problem, but now we don't, right? Because the blocks are empty on Bitcoin. This many people use Lightning, even fewer use Bitcoin Cash, and so on. So there is a marketing problem here, and this is what I want to address, right? Because again, none of this shit works unless the coins circulate freely. And so I'd like to introduce a model to understand the world here, and that is to split up Bitcoin, the movement, the community, and then the Bitcoin, the tool, the thing that you use, right? So a tool is something that, it's easier if you think about something else. Think of a tool that you use, let's say BitTorrent, right? So like I might use BitTorrent to download a Linux distro or something like that. That is very legal. But I don't belong to the BitTorrent community. I don't hang out on BitTorrent Twitter. I would not dream of going to a conference to talk about BitTorrent, right? Probably the same for you. And if I need to install BitTorrent, I will type in BitTorrent client Mac on Google, and I will get one of the top ones that looks legit enough, right? And I wouldn't care so much, is it the best one? I wouldn't care so much about what the technical discussions in the BitTorrent community are, the politics, which I'm sure there is. But that's irrelevant to me, because I'm pretty sure that number one is going to be good enough to get the job done, and that's all I need, right? So it's a tool. Whereas the movement is what makes us all spend our lives, energy, going to conferences, discussing, flaming people, and so on. So if we dig deeper into this, and again, you can be a member of one or two or both, right? And I'm not value judging here, right? Bitcoin is for freedom, so you can do whatever the fuck you want with it, and we shouldn't moralize or guilt people into doing anything else. It's very important. But like if you look at Bitcoin, the tool, so we're at the Paralelní Polis, the home of the European cypherpunk movement, I think, maybe even global. And so the tool is where you have all of the cypherpunky stuff, do the transactions that they don't want you to do, right? I mean, the dissidents, they don't care about Bitcoin the same way that we do. They use Bitcoin to raise money. They care about their dissident business for the societal change, right? That is their movement. And Bitcoin is just a tool for them, right? And that's also where privacy, I think, belongs, right? Because if you don't make transactions with Bitcoin, you don't particularly care about privacy aspects. There's hodl on both sides, right? There's people that hodl because it's a community value to hodl, but there's also a lot of people that just bought some Bitcoin, they think it's going to go up, they don't particularly care about it, it's a speculative vehicle and a tool for them, right? And on the tool side is where we see the use of wallets, we see the emergence of the circular economy and so on. But at the same time, if we look at the movement, at the community, it's a community. And currently, we're in a phase where it's very like, this is how you should live life. You should have low time preference. You should not eat carbs and seed oils and all of that stuff, right? And there's like a long list of things that you should and should not do. You should stack sats. You should custody your own keys, ideally in offline, ideally in a multi-sig of several offline wallets, and so on. You should run a full node. It's really great. And you should sort of not worry so much, because one day, if we just drive it up, the price up, then the magical hyper-Bitcoinization will happen, which is an apocalyptic type scenario where everything will be bad for everybody except for us, and we're going to be in the citadels. It's very messianic, right? From like it's Armageddon. Anyway, that's not where I'm going with this, but also like an important tenet of the community is that you shouldn't shitcoins, right? Don't in any way. And there's good reasons for this. Historically, shitcoins have been fraudulent and scammy, and people have lost money, and all of that. We know this stuff, right? So it's there for a good reason. But one thing that we notice is kind of absent, I think, in large parts of the movement side is actually, making transactions, And that's not really, I think, surprising, because it's very consistent to be a Bitcoiner, to believe in Bitcoin and the vision of Bitcoin, the values of the community, not necessarily have a need for the tool itself, And so there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin movement that do all of these things, and they're in compliance with all of the values, but they're just, not using it. And that's fine, right? Again, we're all here. Everyone who's here is here for the movement. We have to be very clear about this, right? People don't travel to a conference about a tool. So I'm not sort of wrecking down on the movement. I'm just describing it. But so this thing where there's all of these values and things that you should do, and you shouldn't stack sats, and you shouldn't use shitcoins, and in the end that leads to things like this. Where last year some guy announced a Bitcoin pizza service, which you couldn't buy with Bitcoin, and this was in compliance with the values of the community, because there were no shitcoins on that site, right? Only fiat, and fiat is currently not really seen as a shitcoin or whatever, but. My point is that we see things like this, and this is a part of the community, but it doesn't use the tool, right? So you can be a member of the community, the movement, without using the tool, and vice versa, right? So if you look at this, it's a little bit like a Venn diagram, right? There's people that use Bitcoin as a tool. There is people that use, it's such a strong word, like use and love, like if you think about in the romantic sense. It conveys the message very clearly what the difference is, right? And there are people that are in the movement, and again, all of us here are here because of the movement. Actually, I actually think that like this particular event is in the cross section, which is why I'm so excited about this. But it's very important to be mindful of this, that there are a bunch of people that are in the movement that are actually don't have a need for the tool. And that's fine. They're great people. They're our friends. I am to a large extent in that category myself. There's also a whole bunch of people that use Bitcoin as a tool and don't give a fuck about our movement. A lot of them, right? And as it should be, I think. Yeah, right? We're building a useful tool for the world, and so there's going to be a lot of people that use it and don't particularly care about any of the stuff that we're discussing here. Right? But again, you need to be mindful of selection bias here, because if you look around here, you're not going to see anyone from just the tool camp, because they don't come to conferences. They also don't hang out on Bitcoin Twitter, for obvious reasons, right? So there is like an unknown group and the majority of people that use Bitcoin as a tool do not care about the movement. They just use it as a tool. And a large part of the Bitcoin movement does not necessarily need and care about using it as a tool. And this is important, just keep in mind this distinction. and be aware of observation bias that, same as with the World War II planes that came back. If you only look at where the planes got shot, you get the wrong impression because you only see the planes that actually made it back. So you don't see the planes that actually didn't make it back. And that's the point of this little slide. All right, everyone along? Let's go for some more stats. And I think this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting. So on Bitrefill, we built this thing called the wallet selector in the checkout experience. It's an optional feature. Around 40% of our users use it. And the way that it works is that you select from a list which brand of wallet you use, and then we adapt the payment experience. So if your wallet has certain bugs, we adjust for that. We use BC1 addresses for those who can support those, but we use old style addresses for those who don't, and there's like a lot of little things, right? It allows us to roll out the most recent and cool stuff, but also be supportive of the people that still work with the old stuff. And again, around 40, it's not mandatory, and most people don't use it, but around 40% use it. And so we track what they choose because it's interesting. And you're going to see in the next couple of slides is that knowing which wallet somebody uses tells you quite a lot about this person and how they use this stuff. It doesn't tell you their age or gender, but it tells you much more interesting things than that, right? So let's look at some stats from Bitrefill's wallet selector, and let's look at Bitcoin users and Lightning and on-chain together. The biggest one is the Chiva wallet. I hid the others because I want us to play a game. The Chiva wallet is the government wallet in El Salvador. We're doing a big effort in El Salvador, so there's a lot of users that use it. Also, it has a bit of bugs, and part of the bias of this particular exercise is that wallets that have many bugs are more likely to be selected in the wallet selector, so Bitrefill can adjust for the bugs, right? But anyway, there's a lot of people that use it. Chiva wallet, let's leave that for here. And now I want us to play a game. You can see there's the big orange bar and the big, what do we call that color? Light blue. Bar, and I want us to play a game, and the way that we do is that you shout if you have an idea of what one of these two are, and then we vote, and then we see how we're doing. So just shout. What do you think these two big ones are? Bitcoin D. All right. Come. Huh? Blue Wallet. Blockchain.com. Phoenix. Coinbase, what did you say? Shieldbox wallet. Interesting. Yeah. Trust wallet. Oh man, a lot of different options. Yeah. Okay, so I guess let's go through them. How many think that it's Blue Wallet? All right, many. How many think it's Bitcoin D or Bitcoin Core? Not even sure. How many think it's Shieldbox? All right. Which ones else did I forget? How many think it's blockchain.com? How many think... what else did I forget now? Coinbase. How many think Coinbase? All right. Okay. You actually did much worse than I expected. I expected you guys to get the blockchain wallet. It's been around since always, and it's still... but it's not the number one anymore. It's now at number 2, Bitcoin wallet. Nobody even guessed what the biggest Bitcoin wallet is. Isn't that weird? Bitcoin Beach? No. Binance, Wallet of Satoshi, good guesses, but no. Breeze, Phoenix, no. Moon. I mean, we already established that Lightning wallets are less than 7%, so maybe you should not guess those. Bread wallet, no? It's interesting, huh? Binance, we already guessed it. We actually have a Binance Pay option, so they go there. So we don't see Binance so much here. It's a decent guess. We have a winner. So the largest Bitcoin wallet outside of El Salvador is Exodus. It recently passed blockchain.com for the biggest one. And here you can see the other top 10, 20, whichever. And then you see the Blue Wallet and Moon, and actually Bitcoin D is up there as well. Trust Wallet and all these things. And actually, like, I'm very surprised that Electrum is like chugging away. It's a solid 10% or whatever, and it's been like that since forever, and it still is like that, and tried and tested. So shout out to Thomas and the Electrum squad. Okay, and so what if we remove Lightning from this and we look at, because the question is, who the fuck uses on-chain Bitcoin these days, right? I mean, half of the guesses here were for Lightning wallets. Well, let's look at on-chain Bitcoin. Well, then you see Exodus and Blockchain, you see Trust Wallet, Coinbase, Electrum, BitPay Wallet, Bitcoin Core Ledger, Trezor, and so on. And I want us to do another interactive exercise. So I want everybody to bring out their phone. And I want you to do this thing with me, where you open the App Store or the Google Play Store. And you'll be surprised how many prominent product people in the Bitcoin space have not done this very basic exercise. You search in the App Store or the Google Play Store for the phrase Bitcoin wallet. And you're going to have different results from different countries and different situations, different AI, blah, blah, blah. But like, scroll around there a little bit. Because if you remember, we talked about Bitcoin the tool, right? And the way that I would install BitTorrent would be to just Google BitTorrent to just get one of the top ones. This is what people get. And it's not like, you know, the evil AIs of Apple and Google are misleading customers. No, they run data on which ones people install and use, and they give them the most used ones. We good? So I think that based on that, we need to add another point to Bitcoin the tool that people do with the Bitcoin the tool, and that is shitcoins. Because really, all of the top Bitcoin wallets are shitcoin wallets, right? And it kind of does make sense that, you know, well, I mean, it is in some ways the killer app of the space. The speculation, it's been there since 2010. And people will use Bitcoin wallets, and they will also use shitcoins, and that is life for them. Also stable coins, right? And so speaking of shitcoins, I just wanted to do a very quick detour to look at our friends at the different conference and look at what this stuff looks like in the Ethereum world. I'm not going to go deep into this, but like, so if you look at Ethereum, the tool and the movement, they're actually a little bit closer together. Right? I mean, you have in the tool, you know, they have security. It's not the same definition of security, and they accept a lesser level of security, but there is some security, right? And Ethereans are upset about Solana because it has too little security, and so on. It does have certain privacy. It's not on-chain privacy because it reuses addresses and all of that. But you know what? You can, you know, use different DEXs and DeFi things and so on to actually cover your tracks pretty well. There's also a lot of DEXs that don't require you to use KYC, so there's a large amount, a large use of KYC-free things. The DeFi thing, the main activity is to do DeFi things, right? Smart contracts and yield, and that requires you to use a wallet, right? So Ethereum users use wallets quite a lot more than in the Bitcoin world. Right, and they also have the number go up, or what they call it, we're all gonna make it. And they also have in a different way from Bitcoin, anti-scam idea. They have a different definition of what a scam is and a different threshold. But there's definitely some of that in that community as well. And so if the previous stats that I showed were for Bitcoin. Now let's look at crypto as a whole for the wallet Selector and Bitrefill, and suddenly a new winner emerges. The largest crypto wallet in the world is MetaMask. It doesn't even support Bitcoin. And this is by users. If you count by euros, it's going to be even bigger, right? Because they make bigger transactions because it's expensive. But I think this is like, it's important to be aware of this dynamic. I mean, we're at Bitrefill, we're very Bitcoin biased. We speak at Bitcoin conferences mainly. We believe in this thing. So this is unexpected as an outcome, let's say. And so the conclusion that I draw from all of this is that, you know, we live like in a galaxy that circles around a black hole. And I call that black hole the casino. And it's like a collective name for everything speculation related, right? And frankly, even just plain buy and hold Bitcoin, it is a speculative activity, right? The way that Satoshi described it, it might make sense to get some in case it catches on. We're speculating on the fact that Bitcoin will become the money of the future, and because of that, it's going to go up in value, and that's also speculative. So we're all kind of like in this universe that circles around the casino. But there's also other things that are even more casino. You get this. So let's go back to Lightning for a second. And so let's see from the movement and the tool how people actually talk about Lightning and what the things that they typically say, right? So people that use Bitcoin as a tool, they'll be like, oh, Lightning is great, it's fast and cheap. And then they're going to be like, okay, how do I get my paycheck? How do I get my salary on Lightning? And then the next question is like, okay, but how can I lock my my value into USD because it's my salary and I actually don't want to speculate with it. I want to pay my bills next month as well. And then the next question is like, okay, but how do I buy shitcoins with it? Right? But an interesting thing is that if you look at Bitcoin, the movement, and in the community, people are super excited about Lightning, right? We have Lightning emojis in our Twitter handles. Lightning is the future. It's going to make shitcoins obsolete. And there's certain things that you should do to express your support of Lightning. You should run a node and support the network. Still don't really know what that means, but whatever. And you should, you know, I earn yield on my Bitcoins with Lightning because I do routing of transactions, and I'm very concerned about liquidity and these things that I'm talking about. But there's not so much talk about actually, you know, buying shit. And that's interesting, right? Because Lightning is this, it's a political invention in a lot of ways. It's also a technical invention. But there's a lot of people that feel love. We go back to this love and use. There's a lot of people that love Lightning that don't necessarily use Lightning. And there is a certain, I even would call it like a teenage sex type of thing, where everybody is talking about Lightning, and everybody thinks that everybody else is using it all the time. I'm not, but I'm going to keep it down low on that, right? But I've done it a couple of times, you know, right? But there is such a dynamic, right? And so that brings us to like the marketing problem, and also what the problem is with this whole Bitcoin-only movement. That has been growing lately, which comes from a very good place of good values. You shouldn't do shitcoins because it's bad, and all of that, which I would 100% agree with. But in the end, it ends up limiting the marketing to the people that are in the intersection of the movement, right? But you don't get users of the people who are in the movement but don't use the tool. But you also don't get the people that use the tool but are not interested in the movement, right? Because they want to buy shitcoins and do all of the other things. I'm exaggerating a little bit. And so what happens is that, you know, we have this universe, this galaxy that spins around the casino, and then there's this little Lightning-specific, Lightning-only, Bitcoin-only circular economy that is trying to build its own little galaxy outside of that, and it doesn't interact with the big one. And it's actually like this is not in proportion. The Lightning one is much, much smaller. You can be sure of that. Now, I'm not saying what should be done, right? That is up to everyone to assess and make choices, and there's a very good argument for building the parallel galaxy here. I think it's important to be aware of this so that you can make this choice in a competent way, knowing what is what. Because the casino has a lot of strengths, and I think we need to be honest about it, you know. It has access to almost infinite capital from trading revenues and venture and all of that stuff, right? And so as a result, the casinos become the on-ramps, right? They build the on-ramps, and so in the end, I mean, like the best example was a while ago, the Navalny campaign in Russia, they had a donate with crypto, and they had two options. The first one was donate with Bitcoin, it had a one address, and the second one was donate with Binance Smart Chain. And then they had a ref link to Binance because that's the best on-ramp for Russians. And that was, again, they use it as a tool. They're not here for the movement, right? So they don't care about any of our stuff. They just want to get money for their stuff. And that exercise actually ended badly because the Binance is KYC, and they ended up giving out the KYC information. They ended up giving away the information to the Russian government, and people got in trouble. But that's more of a problem with Binance, the exchange, not as much with Binance Smart Chain, and it still kind of like expresses a lot of this trouble. Anyway. And the casino also brings us an important thing, I think, which is stablecoins, which we've seen that it's in high demand for people who live on Bitcoin. They want their value to not go up and down so much in many cases, and we see the growth of Tether, but also stable value things like Strike and that type of custodial stable value services and so on. And then the casino has, number go up. I mean, the casino has a much better number go up. And the yield stuff it also has. But whatever, okay, enough about this. My point is that it's important to know your customer persona, right? And so for Bitrefill, we see the world like this. Our customers are those who use Bitcoin as a tool. And people who are in the movement are our friends, right? So you buy your friends beers, and you show Google ads to the customers so that they can find out that your thing exists, because they don't come to conferences. And others can have other choices here, right? But again, it's important to be mindful of what is your friends and what is your customers, and they can be different. In our case, it's very different. It's always amazed me how on Bitrefill I can post hey, I'm looking for a translator for Georgian language, and within 10 minutes we get 5 strong leads. But if I be like, hey, we have some gift cards you can buy in Georgia, and it's silent there, because we're part of the movement, and so our friends are in the movement, but a lot of them are not interested in buying stuff, and that's fine. We shouldn't guilt them. So based on this, there is I don't know how many are familiar with this model. It's like a user experience type tool to find out what is the real job to be done. What is the customer trying to achieve really, right? And you need to interview them a lot and ask follow-up questions and maybe even get them drunk, and so they actually expose what the real job to be done is. And it's very important. And again, I'm talking here for people who are building in the space. It's very important that if you're building a tool or a company or a service or whatever, it's very important what is the real job to be done here, right? And you can build things, by the way. You don't have to have this type of attitude. There's a lot of companies that build things for the movement, right? There's a lot of companies where the customers are members of the movement, and they build things for them. And it actually helps in a lot of ways, because you get a nice push. Twitter gets behind you, and you very quickly manage to convert a large part of the movement into your customers, and then you kind of okay, that is the total addressable market, and two people will never find out about your thing. And the biggest thing, I think, again, I've been on this point a lot of times, it needs to be exciting. We can't moralize. I know that our community is very you should do this, you should do that, and blah, blah. I think that's wrong. I think that in the end, if we're going to get billions of people using the stuff, I don't think we need to get all of those billions to care so much that they would travel to come to conferences. I think that, and for a lot of people, they have other options. There's some people that are either by choice or because they have no other option. But there are also a lot of people that, they can use Bitcoin, but they can also use other things, right? And so for those people, I don't believe in moralizing. I think that we need to make it exciting. right? And I don't know if you watched Bitrefill on the internet lately. We've been doing a lot of stunts and like new brand and all of that. Point is that we want to make it into a lifestyle brand, into a statement that, you know, hey, I'm the kind of person that lives on Bitcoin, and this is something that I do, and that's pretty cool and exciting. It's not something that I do because I feel like I should support the community. Blah, blah, blah. No, I did this for me because it's fucking cool. And you know, just to give you a reference, again, you remember I bragged about less than 200,000 transactions per month, but like, look, just Coinbase alone has almost 100 million verified with identity customers, and they're a public company now, so I think they can't lie about this anymore. Right? And so, like, okay, all of our metrics, some people clapped even, like, but it's still like 2 transactions per month per 1,000 of Coinbase verified customers, right? So there's a pretty big opportunity here, and I think that maybe we should look at all of these people that have tried a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of crypto, a little bit of whatever, and see, okay, how do we get them into the circular economy? How do we get them into using the tools that we are building? But also, how do we build tools that are useful for them specifically? And I mean, if we grow to those kinds of metrics, I mean, if all of those become part of the circular economy, we're on a good track for the cypherpunk dream. But that's not easy. Yeah, it's not an easy task, and the reason why I'm sharing all of this is because we can't do this alone. We need other people to also build these things. And the dream is a world where you know, we see Bitcoin companies doing big billboard ads on the street in a world where it actually makes sense. And that's the world that I want us to get to. So I'm going to end there, add in the mandatory glory to Ukraine and to all of the Bitcoiners that are literally fighting for their literal freedom right now. Maybe a shout out? No? Okay. For them.